So good morning, colleagues. After this very inspiring keynote speech, I think now we are really motivated to move. So I would like very briefly to introduce myself, because I think some of you perhaps don't know me. So I am Monique Fouillou, working with EI for 20 years, and serving until the last Congress for the last years as Deputy General Secretary. And now continuing to serve EI, but on the board of the Global Campaign for Education as chair of this board. Colleagues, 15 years ago, in October 1999, a few months prior to the Dakar Forum on Education for All, EI took the decision with a few other internationals, such as ActionAid International, Oxfam, the Global March Against Child Labour, and some other regional groupings, so took the decision to establish a movement, a coalition, the Global Campaign for Education. You know, it was important to gather with others, to be stronger. Our expectation at that time was to influence collectively governments and the donor community for EFA, to commit for EFA, and to give the necessary means to ensure the achievement of EFA. 6 goals at that time were identified to be met by 2015. We were very optimistic at that time. Among them, and Mary reminded it, Goal 5, eliminating gender disparities in primary and secondary education by 2005, and achieving gender equality in education by 2015, with a focus on ensuring girls' full and equal access to an achievement in basic education of good quality. The most important initiative taken at that time by the Global Campaign and the organization to follow and monitor the process through the years was to establish the Global Action Week, an annual awareness-raising campaign. Global Action Week provides every year a huge opportunity to highlight one area of the Education for All agenda and make targeted efforts to achieve change on the ground, of course with the added support of education campaigners, agencies, governments, and really millions of members of the public worldwide joining together for the same cause. The first, it didn't take a lot of time, a long time, to realize that the objective of 2005 will not be met. So it was the reason that the first Global Action Week in 2003 was dedicated to girls' education. In 2011, we reiterated, because we thought it was really necessary to push more, and the Global Action Week also was dedicated to girls' education with its Make It Right, education for women and girls now. The teaching, it's just to show that the teaching profession is not alone. We have friends, we have partners also who are supporting us to fight with us. Mary mentioned just some data about the situation, and I will not give you some data and come back again. Colleagues, undeniable progress have been made in improving gender equality and gender parity in education in the past 15 years. But this progress, however, should not mask the fact that girls and women continue to be denied their rights throughout the education cycle and still face huge discrimination and disadvantage in terms of access, learning, and their experience in school. Yes, true gender equality in education and beyond remains far from being achieved. Making education more acceptable for girls also involves ensuring that the curriculum, the classroom and school culture are of high quality, uphold rights, and are relevant and safe. School safety, and we talked a lot during some workshops yesterday, in particular on violence. School safety is a huge issue for girls. At their best, schools can provide girls with protection from violence and abuse through the act of educating them. At the worst, they are a site of abuse. Saying that, Mary reminded also that the EI call for education for all in the frame of the post-2018 debate. But saying that leads me to make the link with the EI Unite campaign launched last October and to underline the importance and the relevance of the 3 pillars of the Unite campaign when struggling for equity and gender equality. Quality education depends, of course, you all know, but we have to repeat this, not for us, but outside this audience. Depends on quality teaching, qualified teachers who have received quality initial teaching training, which is really gender sensitive, which challenge gender stereotype. Quality teaching materials and tools, which challenge gender and stereotype and promote equality and respect. Quality teaching and learning environments are environments which are supportive, comfortable, safe and secure for all. So I would like now, with the complicity of our 3 panelists, to frame our conversation as much as possible around the 3 pillars of the Unite campaign. Loretta, my first question will be for you. Loretta is the Secretary-Treasurer of the American Federation of Teachers. Prior to this, she was IFT Vice President for 30 years. But very important, Loretta began her career in 1966 as a teacher aide in a Baltimore elementary schools. You had a great experience. You had gained a lot of experience through years, and I hope you will share with us. So my first question with you, Loretta, will be, what must we do as unions, for example, labor management collaboration, contracts, community engagement? What can we do to make sure that we are mindful of gender, diversity, and equity?
Well, first I'd like to thank you, the moderator, and I'm honored to be sitting here with my 2 sisters from Sweden and Serbia. As a paraprofessional and starting my career off as a teacher aide, I think I encompass what we are talking about here in terms of a mother of 2 kids who went into the schools as a volunteer person and grew from that and organized the paraprofessionals in Baltimore City. We worked and I grew as a woman within that structure. I became a building rep or president of a local. I moved on to vice president of AFT, and now I am secretary-treasurer of the American Federation of Teachers. Over that period of time, I was able to receive my bachelor's degree and move on. But in Baltimore, getting to your questions about it, in the United States, we still have problems with poverty. In the urban schools, education is the most important thing for our kids in those private schools. The paraprofessionals play a role in our schools, working with those kids, making sure that they're safe, feed them, bring them to schools. We absolutely need extensive and creative and safe schools and strong schools. The paraprofessionals, as we call them in the city, we were the ones that work in the schools orderly, and we keep the schools. Our work may be hidden, but the impact of it is creating equitable and learning and opportunities for our students. And the majority of the people in this career are women.
Thanks. Marina, my next question will be for you. You saw in your dossier, Marina is a professor in the Faculty of Pharmacy at the University of Belgrade, as well as the president of the Gender Committee for the Teachers Union of Serbia. She's an activist and she's really actively engaged in the trade union work, particularly on gender issues. So my question for you, Milena, is what role can teachers union play in challenging the gender and the other stereotypes that we find in educational tools and materials, those that are used for teaching students, as well as those that are used for teaching and training teachers?
Thank you, Monique. First of all, I'm very glad to be here and to speak with my colleague and dear friend. I must say that history of gender stereotyping is very long and deeply rooted in my society. Traditional attitudes, essential beliefs about the nature of men and women continue to influence the behavior of many individuals, women as well as men. The success of some girls and young women which enjoy in education is not converted into post-education opportunities, as evidenced by the pay gap that still exists for women, their level of domestic responsibilities, and their underrepresentation in public life and in decision-making and senior management positions. The stereotype that women should take primary responsibility for raising the family and the association of strong leadership and business skills with stereotypical male characteristics continue to act as an obstacle for women's advancement and men's continued dominance in senior management positions. In my personal opinions, girls, students lack of confidence in their own ability. However, the teachers did not appear to accept any personal responsibility for lack of confidence or associate it in any way with their teaching practices. They appear to have accepted it as a characteristic of girls, and none had tried to address it as a problem. Providing future teachers with more theoretical and practical information how can promote gender equality and how they can act in a more gender-sensitive way in their work, it is essential. Parents also play a major role in the early socialization of their children. Challenging gender stereotyping in schools without involvement and cooperation of parents could lead to tensions for either girls or boys in relation to educational training or career choices. In Serbia, an analysis of primary and secondary school textbooks and curricula in terms of gender equality was conducted at national level, and the results of the analysis were used to make some recommendations for the inclusion of gender perspective in education materials for primary and secondary education in accordance with the national strategy. Student teachers should also have opportunities to examine their own values and beliefs in the context of their socialization and should be challenged to assess the possible impact of this on their future teaching practices and interactions with pupils. If student teachers should learn anything, they should learn that gender equality is about lifting barriers that limit opportunities and choices of both sexes. It is about enriching the classroom experience, widening opportunities, and expanding choices for all pupils. I think that unless in our society legislation and policies are accompanied by comprehensive strategies beginning with the awareness-raising programs for all stakeholders in education system, policymakers, ministry personnel, school authorities, teachers, professionals, parents, and pupils in the elimination of gender stereotyping. The goal will be limited.
Thanks, Milena. Now I would like to go to you, Eva-Lise. Eva-Lise is the president, you know, of Lärarförbundet, the Swedish teachers' union. She became involved in union activity when she started her professional career as a primary school teacher. She has taught in primary education, particularly specializing in pupils with special needs. Mrs. Eva, I will say, Eva-Lise, is also a vice president of Education International. My question to you, Eva-Lise, you know, Sweden and the Nordic region are often held up as examples to the rest of the world when it comes to gender equality, women's rights, and education. Does this reflect a true picture, and to what extent it is reflected in education trade unions more generally, and of course in Lärarförbundet more specifically?
Well, thank you, Monique, and thank you for your contributions here. Actually, I'd like to start to look here at Mary, and I'd like to look here at Mike. You started in a very challenging way, I must say. Mike, when I listened to you, you said that we wouldn't dream of leaving the poverty issues to the poor. And that is the way that it is with equality. As men and women, we have to work together, and that is the next step that we have to take. This is not an issue only for women. We have to work together if we want to improve the world, as you mentioned in a very interesting way, Mary. And you're sitting beside Susan, and you're sitting beside Haldis here. And we all are standing on the shoulders of giants. Thank you, Mary Futrell, you're sitting somewhere here as well. But we have to remember that although we have taken all these steps forward, we should never, ever take this for granted. Thank you for reminding us, Mary, because this is important. We always have to win new generations for this issue. We have to encourage each other. You said, Mary, get out of the ghetto. Don't take it for granted. Step forward, encourage each other, and speak up. And that is important to start with. Although you are speaking about society, or you are speaking about education, or you are speaking about trade unions, it's the same all over. So, in that case, you should never be content. We have come very far in Lärarförbundet. I agree with you, Monique, but we have to fight for it. We have to fight for it in Sweden. And we see in Sweden that we have these problems. We have boys lagging behind girls. And I'm sure that this will affect society. It will affect family life. It will affect education. We have widening gaps between girls and boys that we have to have very, very sharp gender lenses on. I said that in the discussion yesterday, that we all, as individuals, we have to put on the gender glasses, the gender lenses. And we have to keep these lenses on. And we have to put these gender lenses on our own organizations, and we shall never lose the grip. That is important. Never take it for granted. Thank you, Mary, once again. So, if we look upon Sweden, I return to your question here, Monique. In Sweden, we have a labor market that is segregated. You know, women, they work in certain professions, men, they work in other professions. So that is rather typical for Sweden. There are pay gaps if you look upon the whole labor market. And if you say that an ordinary working day is between 8 and 5 o'clock in the afternoon, then men, they get paid for the whole day. But women, they get paid for well, let's say 8 hours, not 9, 7 hours, not 8. So we have these pay inequities. But if you look upon the teaching profession, and that is our challenge here in Sweden, the challenge is that we don't have differences between individual teachers, but we have differences between dominated professions by men and dominated professions by women. So the teacher profession as a whole, that has a structural pay discrimination, and I'm trying my very best, Haldis, to describe this and make up the awareness of what this happens, because in the teaching profession, both men and women are affected by this. So the teaching profession, who is female dominated, we are less paid than other professions who are dominated by men. So even if we are proud of what we have achieved, Monique, in Sweden, we always have to be critical towards the traditional norms. We have to see the things that happen and always keep on struggling. So that is what I like to start with. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eva-Lise. It's important that following what Mary said in her keynote speech, that you remind us this issue of boys in some countries, and it reminds me what Mary said when she flagged the context. We have always not to forget this issue of context, and equality issues are an issue for all. Lauretta, I would like to come back to you again with a second question. Do you think that teachers and education support personnel, conditions of work in the school workplace amplify our demands for equity in education?
I would say certainly yes, it does. When we talk about equality in the USA, we are really talking about poverty, and we have to deal with that. We talk about poor people, and we talk about the struggles that they meet, but we can't talk about poverty without talking about race in my country. In the urban city, I come from an urban city, Baltimore, Maryland. We have remaining tracts of poverty, and we have an overwhelming number of people trapped in the poverty are African American. The children in Baltimore and many other places in the USA, some come to school with no food, less care than affluent families. We also have some that are homeless. They go to homeless shelters and come to school in a day. These are conditions we face that we are leveling the playing field, and it's very important for our work in the educational support staff. But more important is, in the USA, public education is being attacked by the 1%ers, the people who fund foundations. They are really after public schools. They're after the democracy, and they are now pushing very hard in legislation that would take away public schools and public rights. You know, so in AFT, we have started a campaign just as International EI has, and our campaign is Reclaim the Promise. Reclaim the promise of public education, reclaim the promise about democracy, reclaim the promises of health care, reclaim the promise of public services, because the attack is there for our students in the academic world. And we're the ones, you know, that have to guide that education. I agree, education is our way. It is the staffing. So in our program, we have been talking more and more and working with our legislators to preserve public education. And I agree that education in the gender for women and men And we do have to work together. I agree wholeheartedly with you on that. I've been a bargainer. I've been in the education system also for 40 years. As a teacher assistant, as a union leader, and now as one of the top secretary-treasurer of a large union. And I've bargained innovative contracts. I've worked in the educational field. And I'm proud to be sitting here with women, talking this discussion and having this discussion this morning about how we preserve the educational system in the world. Because I believe I can leave America and come here and hear the same problems. And in every country, education is being attacked. So my answer to you is yes.
Thanks, Loretta. Thanks for reminding us how public education is important in this world, as you just mentioned, where attacks against the education system are coming. And thanks also to bring this of the education support personnel. During a long time, EI didn't pay a lot of attention to education support personnel, but finally in Cape Town we adopted our first resolution, and I think it's important because we are always talking teachers matter, but I think no, there is really a team, and we need also, and education support personnel have responsibilities and have an important role also on those issues of struggling for equality. So thanks for your testimony. Marina, my second question, could you share with us some of your thoughts and reflections about what clouds you see in the horizon for public education and for women's rights in your country, but more broader in the region?
In my opinion, gender stereotyping continues to influence the behavior and practices of school personnel, despite equality legislation, policies, international commitments, and initiatives on the part of national governments. University professors are more oriented to teach the science. They don't tackle gender equality. Some comments from my colleagues will document it. We take gender equality for granted. We treat everyone the same. Girls outperform boys in all academic issues. I think that university teachers must interact with students with more gender-sensitive way. They cannot change curricula, but it is important to include that interaction in their usual work. Girls should be provided with information about the opportunities available in the scientific and technological fields, and they should also be encouraged to consider this in the course of their career guidance and programs. Likewise, boys should be encouraged to consider careers in teaching and caring professions. It is essential, therefore, that in course of training and teacher programs, career guidance personnel are made aware of the need to be proactive in challenging stereotype attitudes and choices among the pupils when they are considering the third level and further education courses, training and careers.
Thanks. Evalise, I would like to also come back to you again. Thinking about the role of teachers in the struggle to achieve gender equality within education, what kind of qualifications does a teacher need to be able to deal with equality issues in the classroom? And what role can teachers' union play in ensuring that teachers receive the right kind of education and are able to develop their skill, of course, through their career.
Well, first, I'd like to continue where I stopped at the last contribution that I made. You know, I think that it's very important that we all struggle so that we get a teaching profession that is attractive for both men and women to work in. And that is something actually that we have challenges here. Because in Sweden we need an attractive profession for both women and men. And that is the starting point. And we have a big campaign in Sweden where we say it all starts with a good teacher. And Mary, you said that you think education can make a difference. And education can make a difference especially for the most disadvantaged pupils. So we really have this important, task, changing a society, and then the teaching profession and the circumstances and what is in the teaching profession and how attractive it is. It's important, and it's an important starting point. So we have to encourage all the individuals that we meet in school to make the most of the things they have within them. They have to perform at the top of their possibilities, so to say. And I have to underline once again that we have to be very aware of the values that we create, about the lenses that we have on, so that we see all these challenges, we see the structures, we realize that this is all about knowledge. So also within our unions, we have to work with this. It's about knowledge. It's about structures. So we have to encourage each other all the time to look upon this is a knowledge issue. And to strengthen the teachers, I think there's a lot of things that we can do to improve the education system. We have to be good role models. I'm the first female president of Lärarförbundet. There is my two vice presidents sitting. They are both women, doing an excellent work. An applause to you. Yeah. And the teaching profession, within that, we have to realize that the challenges that we have are so big. So being a good role model, promoting and advocating for reforms that strengthen the teaching profession, that is actually our biggest challenge now. And to increase the teachers' pay, that is what it's all about in Sweden now, because we have asked our members, and they say that the low level of the teachers' pay, that is one of the reasons why the teaching profession is not attractive to enough youngsters, but not attractive to men. So improving the career path that I know that is very discussed all over the world, that is also one of the things that we do, that we think can raise the attractiveness of the teaching profession, because it's all about that. And we know that when you look at the PISA investigations, we know that what the top performing countries do, they attract the top students. They attract the top students, and that is the basic work that we had to do here. So doing that, we improve the possibilities that both young men and young women are interested in becoming a teacher, and there it all starts. And I also like to say something that hasn't been mentioned so much here, and that is the importance of early childhood education. It starts very early, and a good early childhood education that can compensate for socio-economic background of the children. And we have to ensure that all these things start early, and strengthening the early childhood education, that is also an important step in the struggle. And it has to be an ongoing process all through the whole school system. And then Mike, now he is gone, but Mike, you mentioned about this is an issue for both men and women, but we have to realize also that both men and women, they lose out on gender inequalities. Both men and women lose on this. So we must, in our organizations, in the teaching education, in all these layers, so to say, we must take gender issues very seriously, and we have to have a great awareness on gender. So these are not separate issues. We have to mainstream them in everything we do. Thank you very much.
Thanks. So thanks for reminding us also this issue of values, putting this linked with what Mary said as well on critical thinking. So colleagues, the President of Finland yesterday said education, 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 and Mary said education matters, education can compensate. So I think we need really to continue on this way. And I think that we are the theme of the conference, which is from words to action. Now I think we have talked a lot and so on. And I think now, this morning, I am sure, and this afternoon through your workshops, we will be able to move from words to action, to be creative, innovative, to really make an important qualitative step to ensure equitable education for all after 2015. So on your behalf, I would like to thank our three panelists for their contribution, and I hope it will help, this morning will help you and will feed your discussion this afternoon. Thanks a lot. Thank you.